you, everybody, for being here. Quick review of the TCU game. Very proud of the way our guys played, the way we responded to the 2 weeks. It was really some stretches in there, some really good football. Where we, really all three sides, were able to complement each other. Obviously the stretch to start the game, the stretch to end of the game was some of the best ball we've played as a team really the entire year, and doing it under the circumstances on the road against a very talented football team. It was important for us. It was a big game. We knew that going in. So very happy with the way we played, excited about getting back here home this week against Kansas State. Feels like it's been forever since we've played at home. And so going to be another crucial game. We've got to continue to climb, continue to grow as a team. We felt like we took a lot of big steps here in the last several weeks, but that journey's far from over. And I think the big challenge for us will be, we've got to continue to have the preparation, the mentality that we really worked hard on throughout the bye week, throughout preparation for TCU. That's got to continue with this team, and that's going to be a big key. And so that'll be our focus point. Watching Kansas State, initially here on film, you feel like you say it every year, which is a big compliment to them. Coach Snyder does a tremendous job each year. New faces, they've got 2 new coordinators this year. Everything, they've got some changes, but their program is still so steady, so solid. Guys play so hard and so physical, and it's a game for us that, being able to match that, how well they play the game, how clean of a game they play, how physical they play. That's going to be a big part of this game. We had a tremendous battle up there with them last year. It was certainly a tale of two halves, and we've got to be able to play the way that we know we can for a long period of time against this team. And they're coming off their own bye week and then a big win, obviously, against Oklahoma State the previous week. So they've got some good momentum like we do right now as well. So it should be a heck of a ball game. Looking forward to seeing our fans back out here. Our home field advantage this year has been tremendous. We're going to need it again. We again got a nice kickoff time for you. All right, getting off the 11 o'clock train here for a while. So 2:30, everybody be there. Let's be loud. Let's have another great Saturday.
How would you like to start us off?
Where were you last week?
In Cuba.
Cuba? We should have radioed you in or something. Go ahead.
Injuries.
Nothing to report on Sermon. We'll just have to see how that one goes. Marquise Brown doing well. Don't anticipate any issues there. I think other than that, we're pretty clean.
James.
Lincoln, you had some adjustments in the secondary, playing some guys in different spots and giving some guys some opportunities. It looked like that worked pretty well. After you've watched it, did it go as well as we thought?
Yeah, guys graded out well. They handled some of the changes well. Thought Robert Barnes and Khalil both came in and did some nice things for us. Was happy with their progress. They've got to continue to grow, but that was a good start, for them. I thought they both played well. Trey Brown played well. Motley played well. Made some big plays for us, both defensively. You could argue maybe he had 3 of the biggest plays of the game when you figure the 4th down tackle, obviously the interception, and then down in that punt, down there inside the whatever it was 2 or 3 yard line. So, I thought our secondary guys played well. Some of the young guys, getting a chance to get Delaren in there. Thought he did some nice things. I think he'll, continue to become a bigger part of what we're doing. Buki had one of his better games. We definitely took some steps just defensively as a whole. I said this morning on the conference call, we played a lot of 11-man football, and we had some guys that played really well, but it was more to me as how well we played together as a group, and that's something we got to keep building on.
Turner Yell and Redmond get in there and get some action among the young guys. What was the impetus to getting them in at this stage? And you said they played well, they graded out well?
Yeah, they did well. Neither one of them played, just a ton of snaps. So it's a small sample size. Yeah, what's that?
Healthy.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. Redmond hasn't been available. This was the first game that he's been available, and which was a nice surprise. That was a surprise for all of us, when we learned that there was a chance, because it all felt like it would be the entire year. And so no, a big plus having them back. Big plus having Delaren back. I think before he got hurt there during the practice week before FAU, I mean, he was looking like he was going to play quite a bit for us, both defensively and on special teams. And so he's back. He's feeling better. There's some rust that's getting knocked off right now. And now he's going through some of those. Both he and Jalen are going through some of those first game things that you have with freshmen that our other freshmen are past by this point. And so, but they're both talented kids. I would imagine that, they're going to have opportunities for both their roles to grow as we go on.
Ryan Abrams.
Lincoln, you ran a couple option plays the other day, including the Kennedy Brooks touchdown run. How dangerous can those plays be, one, with what Kyler's able to do, and two, just what this offense can do overall in other ways?
Yeah, it's a good play for us. We ran it through the years a couple times here and there with Baker. It's definitely a little bit of a different animal with Kyler handling it, just because of the threat that he poses. But it's never going to become a primary play for us. We're not going back to Coach Switzer's era that far, but it's effective, and we did a good job executing it the other day in some critical situations.
Coach, Texas had a lot of success with quarterback run game, and does Kansas State? It looks like they do a lot of that as well. Is it similar, and what are your thoughts about this defense under Ruffin against that?
Yeah, Kansas State does it in a lot of different ways. I mean, Kansas State really majors in it. There's some things schematically that are similar, but Kansas State is a little bit of a different animal that way, and they are different depending on which quarterback's playing too. Obviously we saw a lot of the Delton kid last year, who's a tremendous runner, and then the kid that they played a lot the other day. I know they've played both this year. He's a capable runner, but they use them a little bit differently. But yeah, Kansas State does. Their quarterback run game, I would say, is as advanced as anybody in the country. I mean, they really build a ton around it and challenge you in a lot of different ways. So they've always been really good schematically, and even with the coordinator change this year, you see them continuing to do that. So we'll certainly have to do a great job against it.
Cliff Brown was next.
Yeah, Coach, you guys have had a lot of success the last 4 or 5 years with freshmen at the running back spot. Beyond the obvious, which is that they're talented, what has allowed you guys to consistently have somebody ready to go as a freshman at that spot?
Good lineman first. We've been pretty good up front, and that makes a big difference. And then I think Jay's done a great job, Jay Boulware, of taking those young guys, molding them early. We've worked hard to, even if maybe one guy's getting the lion's share of the reps, game wise at some point, we've really worked hard behind the scenes, knowing that. To play championship level ball, play as consistent as we want to throughout a long season, it's going to take more than one or two running backs, and it always has. And so we've worked hard to develop those guys. We've been lucky to bring in some good ones, and like I said, we've got a good line blocking for them, and Jay's done a great job developing.
Joe Masato.
With Lee Morris and his knack for touchdowns, is it more of a kind of right place, right time for him, or is there something about him that makes him an attractive target for Kyler near the end zone?
Yeah, he's, like 8 and 12 career catches? Yeah, somebody needs to throw it to him more. There's probably been some good timing, but more than anything, he's made the plays when the opportunities have been there, and they've not all just been. It's not like it's just a guy that we sit there and throw goal line fades to. I mean, these have been, a lot of them have been big plays, and so now he's. I do think Kyler has trust in him, but I think Baker did too. But his role's grown. Part of it now, he's in there more. He's he's in the true rotation, and he's playing a lot of ball for us. And then he's got a unique ability of, the size and all that, where he's a good target, a nice mismatch. But then he also has enough athleticism that after the catch, when he gets momentum going, he's tough to bring down. I mean, he's a big kid. He's thick, really runs well. So he's made a lot of big plays. The touchdown to catch ratio it's remarkable. I've never had anybody with it like that.
With everything that was going on, what did it mean the way Trey Brown played the other day?
Yeah, it was of like I said after the game, I mean, it was just powerful. You know, it was I still don't really know how the kid did it to come play at the level he did, and he played extremely well. So, you know, credit to him. You know, the inner strength he has, the support system around him. You know, I know his family, friends, his teammates here, his family here. You know, I think a lot of people lifted him up. He lifted a lot of us up too, even in a hard time for him. So having him back was special, and you know, being able to be around him, you know, after such a tough loss was, I think it was good for our team, good for him, and yeah, really proud and impressed with the way he played.
Lincoln, do you feel any way that the rule or the calling about the unnecessary celebration is a little out of touch with the way kids are today?
A little bit, a little bit. You know, the only thing that, just like in any call, I mean, you know what the rules are. You know, the only thing that we ever want is consistency. And if it's going to be called in that game, it needs to be called in the previous, whatever, 7 games. You know, CD and Marquise have scored a lot of touchdowns. And so if we're going to call it like that, we need to call it like that all the time. And then obviously I got to do a better job of coaching it.
Do you ever have discussions with refs before a game about those kinds of things, or ask for clarification from the league about what is excessive, what is you know, choreographed?
Yeah, haven't had to on that subject, but there are other, you know, interpretations. One big one this year, I know it hasn't made a ton of headlines during the season, but has been the new equipment rules, or you know, how you're dressed. You know, the big emphasis of if your knees aren't covered or if a shirt's hanging out, they're going to take you out of the game. Some crews have enforced that differently, and so that's an example of some things that we communicate with just to make sure we're on the same page with them. But you know, I'm going to add that to my list.
Tyler, commentary.
Lincoln, Kennedy had a block. Kyler had a run that went down, I think, inside the 10 or something, and Kennedy
They blocked 3 people.
How far has he come with that, considering? Doesn't sound like that was necessarily his MO coming out of high school, then he has the injury. How have you seen him progress in that area?
Yeah, our trust in him just to be able to execute our whole offense is really high. But the kid, I think he's progressed as far as just knowing assignments. He's really progressed as a receiver. But he's got just some natural feel. You see it when he catches the ball. And, I mean, something like that happened, I mean, we never practice it looking like that. I mean, and sometimes, you know, you try to give these guys all the looks you can. You only got so many hours in the day and only so many reps, and there's 1,000 different ways that every play can happen. And so guys have got to have some, we call it, they got to have some ball. You know, they got to have some sense. And he does, because he hadn't seen a look like that in practice, not one time, and he made us all look really smart. So, I mean, that's what really good players do. You know, they can adjust, they understand where you're trying to attack, and if it doesn't go exactly like we planned, they understand, you know, they got a pretty good idea of what they should do anyways. And so we've seen it more with him with the ball in his hands, but it was nice to see some of those natural instincts carry over to a play where the ball wasn't in his hands.
How frequent is it that guys figure out the blocking part of football, or, you know, as a running back or receiver, and really get into it and seem to enjoy it? And is he one of those guys? Do you get the sense that he really likes that part?
Yeah, he enjoys it. I think for us, you know, the way we've used our backs, not only in the one back, but especially when we get in the 2 backs, is they've got to both be able to block and to do those things, or they're not going to play. And it was like that. You know, we told Joe and Samaje that the day we walked in here, and it'll be like that every back that we have. If you want the carries and the opportunities with the ball, great, but you better prove to us you can do all these other things first. And so we try to recruit guys that have that ability, that show they have that want to make plays also when the ball's not in their hands, and it's something we emphasize here. And no matter how good they are with the ball in their hands, I mean, no great back's ever going to touch it more than 50% of the time, 50% of your snaps. So, you know, what is he going to do? Even if a guy gets 25 touches in a game, what's he going to do those other 50 plays? And it better be good too.
Yeah, Lincoln, Ruffin said after the game, nothing was put in the defensive game plan after noon on Wednesday. First, how common is that? Second, do you think it played any role at all in the way that you guys performed Saturday?
I think it's part of Ruffin's approach. You everybody does it different ways with your install. Some people do a lot on the front end and then lessen it on the back end, which has always been Ruffin's approach. Some people space it out through all the week. Offense does it different. Defense does it different. I mean, I don't know that there's one great answer on it. The thing I would say that, and this is I think where Ruffin and our staff's experience came into play, was the temptation would have been, I got 2 weeks here, let's try to change as much as we can, do as many wrinkles as we can, which would have been, in our opinion, completely the wrong approach. And I think our staff's experience, maturity really showed there, and that we made some of the changes that we thought we needed to make and could get made in 2 weeks, and everything else that we thought would be too much, we tossed. And I think that was a big part of the reason our guys were on the same page the entire game, and we played not only played hard and all that, but we played well together, and I think that was a big part of it.
Lincoln, your track record as a play caller is pretty obvious and very positive, so it's interesting to hear you be so self-critical the times that you are, and we heard it again after the game Saturday. Just about, I think it was the one series you didn't like in particular, and it's come up in other post games the last couple of years. I'm curious how that process is for you. Is that the self-critiquing part, is that something you know right away when something's gone awry, or is that something, how has that evolved for you as a coach? Or I'm just kind of asking you to be introspective, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes it's right away. Like the one the other day, there was several that were right away. You knew you just didn't put us in a very good position, and sometimes it's like anything. You come back and watch the film the next day, and there were things you should have done that you didn't. So. I've just always believed, I mean, we coach our kids really hard here and hold them, to a high standard. And how could I do that if I'm not doing the same thing with myself? And so, we're all in the blame when things go wrong, and we're all doing some decent things when things go well. So I've always been, I don't know if it's word's confident enough, but I just think that's how teams should be. I mean, I don't think people should be immune from taking criticism or for pointing out when they do things wrong. And I've never had a problem admitting when I've screwed things up. And so, when I do it, I got no problem admitting it. And I want our players to be like that too. I want our players to, if you did something wrong, don't try to hide behind this or that. Just you did it wrong, accept it. Let's figure out how we need to fix it, and let's go forward instead of playing the blame game, this or that. So, but I think if I'm going to expect that of the players and everybody on our staff, then it's got to start with me.
When your players make a mistake, you want them to forget about it and move on. How is it with you?
It takes me a minute or two, and then I'm good. So I don't ever, during the series, it's fine. After a series, I might have to, disappointed for a minute, but I've done it long enough now that that's part of the ups and downs of a game. So I think I get through it pretty fast. The guys on the headset may disagree, but I think I get through it pretty quick.
A little more on Kennedy Brooks. I asked Kyler a minute ago what qualities he has, what he runs with, that stand out, that really jump out at you. Is it his speed? Mm-hmm. Is it his vision? Is it that one cut ability to hit the ground and accelerate?
Sure.
He said he runs so relaxed that it looks like he almost just doesn't care.
Yeah.
That's the way he phrased it. What stands out about him to you?
Yeah, we were joking. He had one, it was Baylor or somebody, looks like he's out running in the park with his Labrador. I mean, he's just, it does. And it's hard to explain, honestly. It's the same thing we saw in high school, and we went back and forth earlier in his career of, should we offer the kid? He was ultra productive. And the tape was really good. Now, he wasn't just built unbelievably, or he didn't have just 4.3 speed, or you didn't see him just violently running over people, but he just was in the right place at the right time almost every single time. And he's been like that here as a runner. It is. There's an effortless quality to it, but I think he has just great feel. I mean, he just understands where plays are supposed to go, but he's also not a robot when they don't happen exactly how they should. Almost like the block that Tyler asked about. He can adjust too. So and he's got really good balance. You saw him come out of a couple of tackles. So the fun thing for that kid is he is still as far as where he is now physically and where he can get to, there's a ton of room for growth. And so as good as he's playing now, I think, you know, the future could be really bright for him.
Who's next?
Kyler is like 26 points ahead of what the record Baker set a year ago, past efficiency. When did you see this guy was this special, and has it surprised you what he's doing right now?
Well, y'all asked me before the season if like somebody asked in here about the assumption that the production, the level of the quarterback's going to drop off, and I told you, I said, well, we'll see. You know, I mean, I've always thought he could be a really good player. I knew he would play well. The stats are what they are right now. I mean, that's more than anything. He's growing as a player. He's growing as a leader. He's handling situations well. He's got good players around him that he's learning to use very well, and I think, you know, in sync with a lot of them. And so, yeah, I mean, I felt the whole time that whoever won that battle was going to be in a great situation, would have a chance to be a great quarterback for us. So that's just the standard here right now.
Lincoln Carson Meyer seems to his role has grown quite a bit. He was on the field a ton of plays on Saturday. Excuse me. What's been the key to that, and how important can that be in the framework of your offense, given the versatile role that he plays?
Yeah, two keys I would say. One, just all the reps over the years backing up Dimitri. A lot of those weren't in games. Dimitri was so versatile and stayed healthy for us, you know, for several years. But with all we did with Dimitri, we had to have the next guy ready, and he was always ready. So he took a lot of reps here and really grew behind the scenes. The other thing that I would say that's really emerged is he has drastically improved as a receiver, and he's always been a good blocker, but he has really improved, not only just, you know, catching the ball, but understanding our route concepts, understanding where we need him to be versus different coverages. And so that development has allowed us to use him more. He's a weapon there. He's built so much different, Dimitri. We've been able to do some different things with him because of that in the receiving game, and I think we'll continue to be able to do so. So he's just made himself one of those guys that we don't want to have off the field very often right now.
Following up on Al's question, I think it was a couple weeks ago, Kel Gundy said that there's no doubt that he thinks that Kyler could play in the NFL. Do you think that he could play in the NFL, and is Kyler maybe the best athlete that you've ever coached?
I mean, that's down the line a little bit. I know he can play in the NFL. I have no doubts about that. But you know, we got a long ways to go until that point. Athletically, is he the best athlete? I mean, he's up there. He's unique, you know, doing it at this position and what he's been able to do throwing and running. We've had some pretty good ones, but he ranks right up there with any of them.
Lincoln, you talked about the Kansas State's offense. What about their defense? What do you see in what they're doing defensively?
Yeah, changed coordinators again, but it looks, you know, it's similar in a lot of ways. Very, very typical, you know, which is a big compliment. Extremely physical. You know, they've done a really good job. They've had one game this year where they struggled to defend the run. Other than that, they've really done a good job in the run game. They've held down some really good offenses, like they tend to do. You know, experience in the back end. You know, the safeties, and then the corner number 8, Shelley. They've played a ton of ball. And then the left defensive end, 51 Walker, is one of the best pass rushers without a doubt in this league. So, you know, they know what they're doing. You know, they're extremely sound. They're extremely physical with a ton of experience in the back end and an elite pass rusher. So, I mean, it's always challenging when you play them. I mean, every single time. It's just because they just don't make mistakes, you know, and they know what they're doing. They're so well coached. They play so hard and physical that if you're going to make plays, you better make them. I mean, you got to make them. They're not going to give you gimmies. And so that's what always makes them challenging. This year's no different.
Coach, the move with Ruffin was a major change, and I'm sure it's very difficult for that to occur, but at least he knows the players. Bob Diaco has been inserted now. I mean, he's only been on campus for a while, and now you need him to really coach linebackers, and he doesn't have those relationships. Can you talk about his role and how it went last week and so forth?
Yeah, he's done a good job, though, within his role of building relationships with our guys. You know, he hasn't been able before this to, you know, hands-on coach them on the field or in a meeting room, but our players have still gotten to know him, you know, and he's got great personality, great energy. I think they respect, you know, his knowledge. It's very apparent that, you know, he knows what he's doing, and certainly his, you know, his history, his resume would suggest that. But he's been he's been great. You know, he's handled the role very well. You know, he worked very closely there, you know, with Mike, you know, through spring, through the beginning of the season. Did a really, you know, so was kind of there with our outside backers. Got to understand, you know, those guys a little bit through that, and then he and Ruffin and the staff have really hit it off here, you know, in their new roles. So. No, I've been pleased with what he's brought to us. You know, he's kind of the total package. I mean, guy brings energy, he brings experience. Players really enjoy him, really seem to respond to him. So that's obviously didn't anticipate it was going to be in this role, but you know, certainly, you know, thankful now that we brought him aboard as an analyst when we did.
Yeah, Coach Alex Barnes, leading rusher in the Big 12.
Yeah.
What stands out to you about him?
Yeah, he's really good. Watched him against Oklahoma State a couple of weeks ago. I mean, he's catching the ball well. He's running the ball well. I mean, he's physical. You know, he reminds me of Rodney in a lot of ways. You know, he's the big guy with a lot of physicality, but also has big playability. And then you can tell he really understands their schemes. You know, he's very patient. Like, to me, the great Kansas State backs are, really sets up the blocks well. And like any great back, he's playing in front of a really, really good offensive line, a group that's, you know, got a ton of experience, some outstanding players. And so, yeah, they've got a good combination going.
Lincoln, we saw some of Ruffin's dance moves after the game Saturday, and he also, Kenneth was saying that he shares a lot of musical taste with the players.
Right.
How much does that stuff resonate with guys, not just personally, but how much could it possibly carry over to the field too when they play on Saturdays?
Well, I think different coaches are going to relate to their players in different ways. I think at the end of the day, regardless of how you do it, whether it's through music, dancing, spending time with them, whatever it is, you know, you do have to get to know your players. You know, you've got to you have to build those relationships in some way or form, because, you know, to play at a high level, you know, especially at a place like this, there's got to be a lot of trust, and there's got to be a lot of want to, and you know, as coaches, it's your job to establish that, to help to motivate these guys, but also have them, you know, trust every position that you put them in. And then as a coach, you got to be able to do the same. You got to be able to trust that, you know, I'm going to give you this opportunity, and I'm going to trust that you're going to go do what we had you do. And so that's Ruffin's way of doing it. You know, he's got a great way of with the kids, and players, as long as I've been around him, which is a while now, they've always responded to him. And so certainly one of his gifts.
Was that the first time you saw him dance and, get?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's a long-standing thing that he's done.
It's definitely not his first rodeo. Yeah, he'll get in there and mix it up with them pretty good.
Got time for one more, John.
Beyond the changes that we saw on the field, how pleased were you, or maybe you're looking for more evolution from the logistical defensive communication, message getting down onto the field, and then guys getting the message from the coordinator from the sideline? How did that go?
Yeah, it was smooth. I think for, you know, that staff, you know, for their first time together, you know, didn't have a rough up and you know, bob down, and I thought they did a great job of working through 99% of the kinks before we got to the game. You know, we practiced it a lot through the 2 weeks. Got those guys on the headsets a lot. They had great communication, not just during the practices, but after, coming back and, you know, tinkering with this or that to make sure it was just right. And our subs are really good. Guys got calls. I think we only had one play in the game where one of our guys missed a call. So I think our staff and our kids, kind of like the whole thing, they set forward a plan and trusted it. Worked hard throughout the 2 weeks. There's still a few little things we need to clean up, but very happy for the first game.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks.